Emperor, we come for you! We come for you!
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
Long live the fighters!
Well, hello, interwebs. We are back for another fun-filled edition of the Fusion Underground. And, well, I'm joined, well, I should just say, for everybody listening, I'm your host, Manuel Ramirez, but I'm joined in the virtual studio by my brother, Jason Moret, who looks like a bag of ass right now. If you're catching this on YouTube, you're probably going, yeah, man, what the hell happened to him? He looks
I don't look
worked.
like that. No, I don't. I look awesome as per usual.
Jason decided to go camping,
I do.
and
Yeah, I got a little sunburn and little burn,
yeah.
but I
Quite
feel
noticeable.
great and tired.
Mm-hmm. While you're drinking a glass of wine.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not productive. It is definitely counterintuitive at this point if I'm wiped out to be drinking wine because that will put me into La La Land. But
So we're gonna
well,
see.
what
We're
the
gonna
hell?
see if in 30 minutes, if I'm doing this by myself because Jason has passed out from too much camping and wine fun.
Camping and wine puts Jason into coma time.
Yeah.
If I start snoring, just yell loudly, "Wake up!"
Well, this is in our this is our 8th episode of season 5. This is, and if you're counting all of the total episodes to date, this is number 56.
Right.
We're getting up there.
So for 56 weeks of our life, we have had nothing else better to do.
Yes, that is correct. But here, for those that are new to the show here at the Fusion Underground, what we try to do is we try to make sense of the world by having principled discussions about such topics as entertainment, current events, politics, and culture. Our mission is to educate people to become critical thinkers so they can live more empowered and happier lives. You can find all of our stuff out at fusionunderground.net, and you can send us emails at contact@fusionunderground.net. And we're going to be diving into a topic that is very much on par with our mission statement here. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is the importance of having principles and looking at the world in a principled way. Because as everybody probably knows, our culture, our society is very fractured between left and right. We're fractured across all sorts of political divides. And there are basically two sides to every single story or every single idea, concept that lands on the world. And if you're not principled, then you're going to look like a moron. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk through some of the examples of why it's important to have principles, even when you're judging the world around you.
Now, keep in mind, you can still look like a moron, but have principles.
At least
Exhibit
you
A.
have principles. But at least you would be consistent.
You're consistent in at least your argument and stance and how you look at life, which you would think isn't really that big of a deal. But when you don't have that, well, I think you've got some examples of what that looks and sounds like probably queued up for us tonight.
I do. But before we get into that, there's something that I need to share with you, and I got to do this over again. So because I cannot be the only person to have seen this.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. So let me bring the video back up here so I can see your face and all of its amazed glory as we watch through this. It's only a minute long. This video came off of TikTok. I found it on Twitter. And
You're going to give me nightmares tonight.
well, you know what's
Just
that wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention. I want you to think about, you know, often on this show, we do talk about what it means to be a man and in how men behave in the world.
Uh-huh.
And I want you to think about that while you watch this video, and then we'll talk about it.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
This is the scary. You're scaring me already. I mean,
well,
the dummy in this thing was bad enough, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, here we go.
It's vaccination day! It's vaccination day! Today I get my COVID jab, and I'm feeling really fab. For months I have been waiting for this day. When can I get my second shot? And will it hurt or will it not? Oh, I think I am gonna be okay. It's just a small needle, right? And for the people who don't want it and still refuse to take, well, thanks to you now I don't have to wait. 'Cause for the first time in forever, I might get to kiss a girl. It's been a long time. When I get my AstraZeneca, I'm gonna tell the whole damn world, guys, I'm vaccinated. And I know I'm acting crazy, but I mean, I've like waited for a year. And for the first time in forever, I won't live in fear.
We're probably going to get flagged for copyright on that, I'm sure.
Oh my good God. What did I just watch? Oh, dude, that was scary.
You watched it because I did. And I was not going to go through life having been only half of this duo who had seen that video.
Dude, I legit have goosebumps, man. That was freaky. I just want to hold myself and curl up. It's ruined everything for me. Mannequins are gonna freak me out as if they didn't already. I won't be able to watch Frozen with my kids ever again. And now I'm terrified of giving a COVID vaccine, all because of that one video. You have a more philosophical take on this, it seems.
No,
Please.
No, philosophy has nothing to do with this. What has become of men in the younger men in our country?
I was gonna say that's not a man.
Well, males.
Oh, okay.
There's men and man lowercase, and then there's men and man uppercase. And the thing that we talk about when we talk about masculinity, when we talk about being a man and or men in general, we're talking about the uppercase form of the word, right? Because man, just all the word man truly means, in a very scientific way of looking at the word, is just simply an adult male.
Correct.
He is an adult male. So therefore, he is technically a man. No, wait.
Okay.
But he is not, at least based on that video. I mean, that just doesn't pass muster.
There's no man that I know that would take the time and energy to remake the Frozen soundtrack, equating it to the flu vaccine, and computer animate his own face. and publish it for the entire world to see. Not one man I know.
You know, we really did society a disservice when in schools we created the no bullying policies.
The normaling policies?
The no bullying
Oh,
policies.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We need to bring back bullies,
Yep.
right? And I'm not am I in favor of bullies beating the crap out of other kids? Not necessarily, but at the same time there was a naturalizing of a normalizing of into adulthood, into maleness that bullies brought, that they
Well,
do bring, because you know when guys get together, even when guys get together, right, we rag on each other, we call each other morons, we call each other, you know, fuck face, whatever, you know, and when you do that, especially when you're going into a group of men, that's a form of not only accepting you, but also telling you what the social rules and expectations are for you.
yeah. Yeah, when you were a boy growing up, you didn't wear a dress to school for, well, probably a handful of reasons. But one of them was if you were a boy and you wore a dress or a skirt to school, you're probably going to get your ass kicked.
Or
I
even if
mean,
you
it
didn't,
was going to
but even if you didn't get your ass kicked, you were going to be ridiculed and made fun of, and you know, what are you doing? And this, in other words, you were going to appear in all of the, you're going to be the antithesis of all of the mores. Now, people today say, well, what's so wrong with that? Well, what if a boy does want to wear a dress? Why shouldn't he be allowed to? And but there's something else at play here. You're talking about hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and millennia of years of evolution where we have organized ourselves into these roles that we play in society. I mean, when you're talking about integrating men and bringing them into society as men, there's an expectation there of what that means something, or at least it used to mean something. There was a responsibility
Sure.
that went along with it. You know, like Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, when he says, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. The same kind of thing happened, or at least it did happen, with amongst boys, adolescent boys growing into adulthood. They were, you know, they figure out what is right, what is proper, what are proper ways to act, and based on the expectations that are going to be coming of them, or that are going to be expected of them at those different intervals in their lives. And I feel like we've gone off the rails here.
Oh, huge. Huge. And I feel that men have been excuse me, particularly targeted in that area more than females have. And maybe that's just from my male perspective, but you know what? I'll take it. The idea of having any shred of masculinity has been beaten out of men, and beaten out of our younger men, or boys, if you will, so much that, I mean, they don't understand where the line is for themselves anymore. And you talk about, okay, so I made the reference a little bit ago about getting your ass kicked. Well, even if that didn't happen, your friends would be all, "Hey, dude, you're not allowed to eat lunch with me at this table dressed like that. Go over there. Go sit over there by yourself." So there was even an ostracization from your own peer group because you were acting so far outside of the social norm, which those rules are set by that peer group, not by any authoritative figures above or below. It's and so when you actually remove that sense, like you were saying, the social rules set forth for each other, you remove those kind of boundaries. I mean, and the other part of it is kids know that it's wrong or it doesn't feel right. It's usually someone else, or maybe parents coming in even saying, you know what, that's not wrong. You shouldn't judge them for that. You don't know what's going on. Maybe he just needs a friend. You should go talk to him. I mean, to a degree, I understand that. But when you normalize behavior like this, you lose the identity of the species along the way. And that's
Yeah.
what you and I have been talking about our loss of masculinity in the male
Mhm.
gender.
I think about things like playing a game. If you're playing a board game, let's say you're playing a game like chess or Go or Monopoly or any of those kinds of things, there's an emergent, and I've talked a little bit about this on the show, that there's an emergent morality that takes place in the act of playing a game. And the emergent morality is, if I want to play in the game with you, then I need to first learn the rules, and then I need to follow the rules. And guess what? Nobody's going to stand over me with a gun. Nobody's going to threaten to send me to prison if I play the game incorrectly, if I cheat in the game or anything like that. But if I start breaking the rules, if I start breaking the social structure that we've created in the game itself, then what that means is you're no longer going to want to play the game with me.
Right. Right.
And other people are not going to want to play the game with me if I break those rules. And so this is an example of a young man who is breaking those kinds of social rules. And what happens is other men look at it and say, I don't want you in my presence. I don't want you covering my back. I can't, how am I going to rely on you? Have to, I mean, people need to realize that when men come together as men, they also want to make sure that the other men in their lives are going to have their back, are going to be there to support them and have their back if things go south. And if you need somebody to help you move, I can rely on you and I can call you, or if I need help, I can call you, and as a man, you're going to be there for me and I'm going to be there for you. And when young men like this, when they violate those social norms, and as men, we look at it and go, what the hell's the matter with you?
Right.
What they're doing, and the little boy that decides that, well, he's just going to wear a dress to school, in the 8th grade, I'm just going to wear a dress. Why shouldn't he be allowed to? Well, because other boys aren't going to want to be around him.
Right.
And other men are not going to want to be around him. So when men go off to do men things, they're not going to want that little kid to come along with them. They're not going to want that young man as he goes up to come along with them, because they're outside of that male circle. They don't fit in. They're not accepted.
Right.
So this is what it leads to, and this is why I get really I I don't get upset, but I just feel bad for these young men who they don't know any better. And yet society is filling their heads with, it's okay if you want to not act like a man. I think that there's societal harm that can happen, particularly for that individual.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and what people fail to recognize is that there is blowback to individuals like this. There is societal blowback. When we deal with that as men, or really as boys growing up, as part of our maturation, part of that natural going through the adolescence even, but part of growing up and learning that is learning how to deal and how to cope with that as well. And this is why we have grown adults not knowing how to take criticism for their
Yeah.
actions, because they have never been ridiculed. They have never faced any outspoken criticism for anything they've done up to that point. So they don't know how to handle that. Now,
Yeah.
you take that outside of wearing a dress, or I don't know, glam facing yourself for a drink, but you actually take that into a productive realm of society. We'll take the workplace. Somebody who's not actually doing the job, they're not performing, they're not meeting the standards, their work is subpar, they're making mistakes. A decent manager is going to attempt to try to rectify that behavior or rectify that performance with constructive criticism. A person like this, whether it's male or female, really, if you've never faced any sort of criticism whatsoever, they break down and crumble. And they either they implode and turn into an emotional blubbering mess and then run out, or they'll quit. and they will continue to job hop. I know people like this. They get criticized, they can't handle it, they think everybody's quote unquote picking on them, and then they just quit and they go try and find something else. And so they never get a sense of stability in their lives. I don't think we recognize the impact and the damage that we cause people by trying to protect them from damage.
Right, right. So I have a different one here that I want to play for you. This one is a little bit more fun. So I found this. This is hysterical. I think you'll get a kick out of it. So this is, I don't know where this was filmed. I think this was in maybe an Asian country. The folks in the video appear Asian, so maybe like in South Korea or I don't know. Not that that matters. It doesn't really matter. But I got a kick out of this. I thought this was hysterical. So there's this little boy right here in the video in the lower part of the screen. And he's sitting at this table. I don't know if this is a classroom, a lunchroom, whatever. And he's sitting at this table and his book is open on the table and he's passed out. His head is down on the table and he's passed out. And here's a teacher who's, well, she's packing up his stuff. Watch what happens with this little boy as she tries to get him up and go to class.
Great.
So, you can see some other kids in the background here. They're leaving. She picks up his book. He's out. So she sticks the book in his backpack. Okay. Oh, I got to go to class. All right. I'm going. Let me just grab this. Yeah. My backpack here and put my backpack on.
He's so tired. He tried to put a chair on his back. Oh, poor little dude.
He picks up the plastic chair and tries to put his arms through the arms of the chair to put the chair on his back like it's a backpack. What I love and this is what killed it for me. Watch this person right here in the blue at the top of the middle of the screen. Because obviously they're watching, this person's watching this, but right. Watch their reaction. Wait, come on. He just dies.
Oh, God. Oh, dude. Oh, poor little dude. Oh, my gosh.
He just can't handle it anymore.
He's hunched over the table, can't even stand up. He's laughing.
Poor it's so great.
Poor little kid, man.
Because you can see the guy right back here. Here he is. Okay, come on, let's go to class. Let's go. Come on, we gotta wake up. Let's go to class.
Both arms too. He is. Oh, if anybody's ever been around kids who are tired, you know that there's this magical place halfway between sleep and awake where your brain's on like autopilot, and you can still function even with your eyes half open, but you are dead asleep. That's where that little boy was. He was out on his feet. Poor guy.
Just done. All right. So let's get into the topic here.
All right, let's do it.
So remember, we're talking about the importance of having principles for just discourse and for how to approach life. And if you don't have, the idea being, if you don't have principles in your life, then you're going to be all over the place. You're going to fall for anything. You'll never stand for anything. How could you? You're not basing it off of anything rational. You're basing everything off of emotion. So you run the tendency of being taken advantage of or looking like a hypocrite. You wanted to say something.
Well, no, I think a lot of people really do believe that they have values and principles in their life. They do believe that, and they believe wholeheartedly that all of their emotional responses are from a very noble place based on those values. Mm-hmm. The stark reality is when you realize that you don't, based on the validity of your arguments when they're emotionally driven. And that's where you typically tend to flip-flop, or you come off very hypocritical. And I'll be honest, you have challenged me on this a couple of times with some very deep topics. I think you and I've actually twice had a discussion, even on this show. We talked about the idea of being in favor of capital punishment and anti-abortion. And I use that just as a glaring, obvious example of, if you are pro-life, then if you can be for capital punishment, then you have to stand for abortion almost. I
Mhm.
mean, you can't say that there's a sanctity of life and not stand for that value in all applications of it. Whether that life is, I mean, deplorable by all definitions, or completely innocent and even unborn.
Right, because there are the way that I see it, for example, using that same example of abortion and capital punishment, you're either in favor of life and you value life as it is in all its forms, and you recognize that life is a precious thing and that it should be protected.
Mhm.
Even the most heinous among us, should we at least protect their lives, right? Now, if you're in favor of abortion and you're also in favor of capital punishment, then you don't, then that what that says, what that type of action and ideology says is, it's not so much that you favor life. It has nothing to do with whether or not you favor life. It's, you now are taking the stance of whatever is convenient and whatever satisfies your own inner desires the most. That's what you will gravitate toward. So if well, we got pregnant, we don't want to be, so let's just go ahead and abort the baby because that's what's better for us. Okay, then you'd go get the abortion. Or, you know what, I hate that individual, they were terrible, I can't believe it, they're evil, let's just kill them and rid them because that's what's better for us as a society. Well, then now you're at least you're consistent.
Yep.
I will say that at least you're consistent. Now we can have we can either agree or disagree on the method of consistency, but at least you're consistent. Where I go off, where I start getting crazy, is when somebody says, "Well, I'm for abortion, but I'm against abortion, but I'm for capital punishment," or the other way around, right? So it's like, well, then where are your priorities? Do you value life, or do you value personal retribution, right? Um, but so while those are really hot topics that we could also spend a lot of time on. I think that illustrates kind of what we're talking about here.
Right. Right.
So let's bring it down to things that are less tumultuous, and let's look at something that is happening in today's news cycle now, and that is people getting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people that have gotten the vaccine for COVID, and there are some people that it's like they belong to a cult. They create TikTok videos of them singing and dancing about getting a COVID shot. Okay. um, and then there are people that are like, I'm just going to wait and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, so yeah, so now we're getting, the vaccines are very prevalent now. Pretty much if you want one, you can get one or two, depending on whatever it is, right? They're everywhere. And so this led Jake Tapper last week. Jake Tapper was talking to Dr. Fauci about this whole concept. And Tapper said, quote, "How are restaurants, airlines, others supposed to know if the people coming to their establishments are vaccinated?" And Fauci's response was, "Well, Jake, they will not be able to know. You're going to be depending on people being honest enough to say whether they are vaccinated or not." Now,
Whoa.
this little exchange, right, had created a huge shitstorm on social media.
I
You
can
have,
only imagine.
yeah, there are people, the collectivists, the
Mhm.
statists,
Right.
they are in an uproar saying, well, we need to demand that we have proof that you've been vaccinated. Nobody, if you're and of course they're immediately equating anti-vaxxers to Trump supporters, etc. You
Sure.
had, you have people now saying that they're still going to wear their mask even if they are vaccinated, so that they're not mistaken as a conservative. This has actually happened, and people are coming out saying this. Um, and here's my.
Well,
Go ahead.
okay. No, well, no, and this is interesting because somebody brought this up too. The people who are whoever those people, you people, whoever you people are out there who are not getting the vaccine, those must be Trumpists. That
Yeah,
those are Trump supporters.
yeah.
Now, I mean, just on a logic-based analysis of what's happened, um, up until November, the vaccine was all Trump. I mean,
Right,
remember
right.
there was thousands
Hmm.
of people saying that they would never get the vaccine because Trump did it
Right.
and it was his. And I believe even our Madam Vice President has gone on record saying that she would never get the vaccine with Trump's name attached to it, but she would gladly get a COVID vaccine. And remember, all of the vaccine was Trump, 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 because they politicized that point.
Hmm.
So let's just pretend I was a Trumpist, a diehard Trump supporter, then wouldn't I want to be one of the vaccinated to prove
Hmm.
that Trump was right and that it was working? I mean, that's logically, just using a logical based analysis of the timeline, that would make more sense to say that somebody who's not getting it, like Kamala Harris, I couldn't call her a Trump supporter, but I mean, now she's gotten it. So does that just flip flop the argument?
Well, and here's something that I thought about is you have to trust people.
Oh, yeah.
There's a certain amount of trust that you have to give in order to operate in society. If you don't, there are people that will say, they will say rhetorically, well, I don't trust anybody. Yeah, but
Sure.
you get in your car and you drive around on the streets of a busy city, so obviously you do trust people,
Yep.
because you trust that people are going to obey the traffic laws. You trust that people are going to, when the light turns red, you trust that people are actually going to stop
Or
at
when your
the
brake lights
stop sign.
come on, they're not going to
Exactly.
run into you. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So there's a certain amount of trust that you have to exhibit in the world just to survive. I mean, if you go to a restaurant, you have to trust that the cooks and the serving staff are not going to spit in your food.
Right.
So and now you have people saying, well, we need to have proof that you've been vaccinated. Well, what other kind of proof should we require in order for you to feel comfortable operating in society? If we're driving down the street and people might say, well, if you're driving a car, you have a license.
Hmm.
How do I know that? How do you know if the people on the road that are driving around you actually do indeed have a driver's
Have a driver's
license?
license?
How do you
You
know
don't.
that? You don't
You,
know that.
right.
You assume that because it's the law that people are, if they're operating a motor vehicle, that they have a license to do so, but you don't know that. I've known countless people that have been driving on suspended licenses, never got a license before in their life, and yet they've got on the road. How do you know that those people have insurance? A lot of people
A
drive
lot of
around
people
without
don't.
insurance. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't,
Right.
right? But the assumption is you still get on the road and you assume that people have vehicle insurance in case they were to get into an accident with you, and they
Hmm.
cover the cost of your damages. You
Hmm.
don't know that.
Right.
So
But that's the law.
right.
So by that example, are you equating that we should mandate by law everyone be vaccinated?
No,
Okay. Well, I'm not either. I'm just curious as
no,
to.
no. I don't think that. But and here's something here's where I find it gets really interesting. You have people that are saying people on the left, you have leftists who are saying we need vaccination passports, we need vaccine IDs.
Weren't we saying we needed IDs to vote just a few months
That's
ago?
where I was going to go. That's where I'm going. So riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah.
Why is it that mandating vaccines and mandating vaccine IDs completely doable? Mandating voter ID, that's problematic and racist.
Yes, it's voter
Because-
suppression.
Because remember, the argument that the leftists use is that if you're a minority, if you're Black, you're Asian, you're Hispanic, they don't really like to talk about the Asians as much because, well, everybody knows that the Asians are smart. They're kicking our ass and everything, even here in this country, right? And more power to them. I celebrate. Keep doing it. Keep whooping ass. I'm not saying anybody should get in their way. They're the ones putting in the hard work. They should reap all of the rewards that come along with it.
Hell yes.
But when leftists talk about it's racist to have voter ID, they're really focusing on Blacks and Hispanics in this country.
Correct.
That because the argument is, well, Blacks and Hispanics, they don't know how to go get an ID. They're incapable of doing that. They're incapable.
And for years, the argument was that there were a lot of people who were non-documented.
Yeah.
And they would not be able to get an ID. Well, but then they are not really entitled to vote.
Right.
That's the counter argument that's been out there, and of course that's the voter suppression mentality. Well, you're just trying to suppress voters.
Right.
No, I want people who are legally able to vote be able to vote.
Right. But pull it back onto the topic here, and it's why is it racist and problematic to require minorities to get IDs to vote, but it's not racist and not problematic to force them to get vaccinated and to force them to get an ID, a vaccination ID? How can you honestly say that those two things are completely and totally different?
I hope you're really not asking me to defend a hypocritical position like that, because I suck at that. I'm not good at that.
So that's just one thing to think. That's just one thing, one of these examples of where's the principle lie. It is the principle that you want people to be able to prove themselves in certain situations. But then how come only some situations and not all situations? Okay. So then you have these same people on the left who are demanding, because the CDC just a couple of days ago came out and said, yeah, that whole mask wearing thing, we can get rid of it. Right. And which created this deluge of leftists coming out and saying, well, I'm still going to wear the mask because that way nobody will think I'm a conservative. And you have leftists now that are saying, no, we need to have mask mandates. So
I still don't understand where. Well, okay, go ahead. You were getting ready to continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So explain to me something, rhetorically, of course, that one of the big concerns because of this dropping of the CDC thing is that leftists are demanding people wear masks because they believe that the conservatives, the Trumpers, who they believe are also anti-vaxxers, they haven't gotten their vaccine. So the anti-vaxxers are just going to throw away their masks and they're going to go out into public and they're going to get a bunch of people sick because they're going to be magically carrying COVID around. So explain to me how mask mandates would be followed by conservatives, okay? But yet they also, or in fact, I should say, they're not even saying that. They believe that a mask mandate will be ignored by conservatives. And so that's why they're complaining and why they're pushing why they're pushing vaccination IDs, right? Because they want conservatives to be able to show proof when they walk into a building or go to a venue that they are vaccinated. because they think that that conservatives will just ignore the mask mandates. So if conservative anti-vaxxers will ignore mask mandates, you believe that, well then how is it that you believe that restricting guns will restrict criminals from getting new guns?
Oh, that's a separate issue. You can't take a principled stance and apply it to multiple issues. You're splitting hairs here. I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous to think to for somebody to try and equate COVID regulatory adherence to gun laws. I mean, that's just childish.
Right. I mean, so
Did I
again,
did I do a good job sounding like some
yeah,
of our leftist politicians? Because I tried.
right, because if the conservatives are just going to violate the law and not wear masks, violate the mask mandate and just not wear masks, why on earth would you think that criminals are going to adhere to gun laws?
You know, the fact that you're looking at the gun issue as
Mhm.
a criminal adherence issue, that just makes you racist.
Mm.
You're just a racist conservative. Because
Right.
really, I mean, let's be
Right.
honest. All of the gun violence that
Mhm.
happens in this country is perpetrated by people who obtained a firearm legally
Mhm.
and committed crime. They were
Mhm.
not criminals prior to. The fact is, they didn't have to go through enough um, regulatory oversight to acquire that firearm. That's the issue.
Okay.
It's the amount of regulation that's in
Mm.
place. That's the real
Okay.
issue. Yep.
We'll
Yep.
see
Yep.
that. Well, I learned something new every day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's got to be it.
That's
It
got to be
can't
it.
be the fact that there's thousands of guns out there that are
Right.
being handed out by criminals and gangs and
Right.
those that don't obey the law already. Can't be that.
Right. You know, if only we would make a law that says you're not allowed to kill another human being. If only. I mean, think
That's the
about
problem.
if people, because if people follow gun laws, well, then we should just make a law that says you can't shoot somebody.
See, I told you when we were talking about laws the other day, we we just need to make more laws. That's going to solve all of our problems.
So here's another thing with the whole vaccination thing, right? On the vaccination front. Um, let's look at another, you have the vaccine, and then let's look at another concept called abortion. Now,
Okay.
the left for years, for decades, has argued my body, my
My
choice, right?
body, my choice. Right.
Well, is it not my body, my choice, what I get to put into it?
No, because abortion has to deal with what we're taking out.
Oh, we're taking something out as opposed to putting something in.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
also heard the argument that if so getting an abortion does not negatively impact all of society, like not getting a vaccination and allowing a virus like COVID to spread amongst the population. So
Well, that's
therefore,
creative.
you should be enforced to get a vaccine, but women should still be allowed to have abortions whenever they want to because it's their body, their choice. But everybody else doesn't have the same they don't have the same option. Their body, their choice, no. So my body, my choice only works in certain situations. So then you have to look at it. So I was thinking about this and I thought, well, what that means is the leftist just wants to do whatever's right for them.
Well, yeah.
So the leftist just wants whatever they want to have. If they want to have the abortion, they should be allowed to have the abortion. If they want to be protected from viruses, then they should be allowed to enforce their will upon other people so that they get protected from the virus.
Mhm.
But here-
Well,
Go
okay,
ahead.
okay. Really, and I'm gonna probably piss some people off, but you know what? Wouldn't be the first time. This really boils down to taking ownership and personal responsibility for your actions. There are very rare instances, and you and I have talked about the actual percentages of abortions performed in this country, which
Mhm.
are related to rape and incest.
Almost
and
zero.
it is negligible. I
So
mean,
negligible.
it doesn't even show up
Right.
on a graph.
Right. Statistically speaking, it doesn't even come into
Correct.
play. Yeah.
So that means 99.98% of the abortions performed are based
choice.
on a woman's choice. That's
And
correct.
the vast majority of abortions that occur actually occur amongst um, middle middle class uh, housewives.
Mhm.
They get pregnant. They they're, well, the kids are already in high school. I don't want to be saddled with another kid, or oh, we already have three now and it's already difficult, and so no, I don't want to have a fourth one.
Right.
Or to the extreme where they were out screwing around and they got pregnant and oh crap, I can't have my husband find out because I was my husband over here is an Irish guy, Irish white dude with red hair, and well, I slept with a black guy, now I'm pregnant, so that's going to be kind of obvious. So I better go get the. You're right. It's those kinds of things that
Yeah.
come into the equation, and so the vast majority of abortions are middle class Americans that
Right.
are just making a choice for what is convenient for them.
It's expediently prudent. I mean,
Yes.
it's really about what's best in the moment. And even the teen pregnancy, that used to be the other argument. Well, there's all these teens, and you know what? They learned they didn't have anything. They didn't even hardly show up on on the data.
Really small
They
percentage.
is a very, very small.
Yeah, very small percentage.
More than the rape and incest, absolutely, but extremely small.
Yeah.
So that's not a valid argument either. Sorry to
Mhm.
say.
And then the other argument is, well, what if the mother is endangered? Well, humans have been birthing other humans for a very long time, and humans have adapted as a species to be able to birth other human beings. They've become well adaptable, well adapted to doing that. And the marvel of modern medicine has shrunk any kind of um, negative medical result to nearly zero when it comes to
Yep.
pregnancy.
Yeah,
And
I can
so,
tell you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well,
Sorry.
the number of women that need to get an abortion because of life-saving issues or things like extremely small. Again, it barely blips the stats.
Right.
It's so
That's
infinitesimally small. Now, it does happen. There are
sure.
situations where it can happen.
Yep.
Of course, we're not denying that.
Yep. And the other in the so in a hospital, if
Mhm.
the mother's life is in danger and the baby has to be aborted to save the life, that is a sentinel event that must be reported. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as
Yeah.
unreported abortions in the hospital because of
Correct.
that. And I
Correct.
can tell you, worldwide and here in the United States, the number of those abortions is infinitesimally small, even
Yeah.
in comparison to the teen pregnancy abortions that I've
Right.
referenced earlier that
Right.
barely show up.
Right.
So again, the arguments that are made for abortion are those three main categories that we just touched on, and they don't even barely touch the scale when it comes to measuring the amount of death that we deal out in the form
Yeah.
of abortion. So, what I was saying is this goes back to addressing not taking responsibility for personal choice.
Correct.
And you equate that to COVID. That's the reason. I mean, everybody wants everybody must get the vaccine because God knows if I get sick, it's all your fault. It's everybody else's fault. You know what? You get sick all the damn time. And we still, even, you know what? I get sick. I get a cold, I get the flu, and I go, well, the damn kids, they brought that crap home from school. Of course they did. It's their fault. Or, you know what? It's just cold and flu season and it happens. But thousands of years of evolution, guess what? In modern medicine, thank you very much, nobody's dying from cold and flu.
Mhm.
Actually, statistically speaking, since we brought that up, still to date, more people died of the flu
Correct.
last year than of COVID, which interesting statistics since we're talking about it. I don't know. I just brought that up. The health department up here in this county released the flu numbers here recently. I think I sent this graph to you. Did you remember that? Just a wild guess. You know how many flu cases we had up here in the third largest county in the United States?
10,000.
11. 11. All of 2020 went by. 11 total cases.
Well,
of
they
the
treated
flu.
well because they just treated it all as COVID.
It's all COVID.
It's all COVID.
And it's
Right.
such crap. I mean, if you compare that to last year's numbers, yeah, it was like 208,000, I think it was. Yeah, this year, 11. We cured the flu. Bam,
Yeah.
just like that. COVID came through and wiped that out, along with cancer and heart disease and
So you
diabetes.
you work in the medical field.
Yes.
Did you get vaccinated?
No.
Okay. I'm not vaccinated either. And
Mhm.
again, I'm not, and I've told people this many times. I'm not anti-vax. I normally get a flu
No.
vaccine every year.
As
And
do I.
I mean, for years, I usually get a flu vaccine. I didn't get it last year because I wasn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
And every time I went to the grocery store to where they have the pharmacy and thought, oh, I should probably get my flu vaccine, I didn't have my medical card, my insurance card. So I didn't get it last year at all. Not because I didn't want to, but just because I just kept forgetting to bring my insurance card. Um, I'm not opposed to getting the COVID vaccine. Well, mainly because I don't like getting sick. I don't like getting sick. And if I can get a shot and there's a pretty good chance that either A, I'm not going to get sick, or if I do get sick, the symptoms will be pretty mild, which is what people have been saying about the COVID vaccine, is you can still get sick, but your symptoms would be pretty negligible, and very short-lived. Well, hey, that sounds like a bonus to me, right? That sounds great. But I haven't run out and gotten the vaccine because, well, I'm not really anxious to be an early adopter.
Yeah.
It's like, give me the version 2 vaccine and let's go from
Right.
there.
Take it to a gaming perspective. Everybody knows when the new game console comes out, never go buy it. Wait.
Right. It's going to be
till
filled with
generation
bugs
2. You never
Right.
get a Gen 1 console.
No.
Well,
You go
I'm
get
not
the
getting a
next
Gen
one.
1 vaccine.
Right.
Well, and when everybody was rushing out, right when that first started popping out, I said, will I get the vaccine? Yeah, probably eventually.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm not going
I'll
to
get
do
it.
it right now. I am not in the high risk demographic, in a high risk category, which would necessitate me getting that over someone else whom actually needs that. And I am still painstakingly tested a lot. I mean, there was there for a while, I was getting tested for COVID 3 times a week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For a long period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is down a little bit from that now, but I'm getting tested for COVID more than probably anybody even says test for COVID.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, because I haven't gotten it either, I've decided that I'm going to change. I'm going to identify. Everybody's in the mode of, you want to identify as something that you're not. You want to identify. White guy wants to identify as a black guy. A man wants to identify as a woman. Woman wants to identify as a male. All these kind of stuff, right? We're doing all this kind of identification. Well, I want to identify. I'm going to be, from here on out, at least until I get my COVID shot, I'm going to be a transvaxite.
Transvaxite?
Transvaxite. It's a person who identifies as having been vaccinated, but who actually hasn't been vaccinated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I figure, what, if gender can be a spectrum, then vaccination can be a spectrum. And you're a bigot if you don't accept me for who I am.
See, you might be able to get away with that because you're Hispanic. I can't do that. Well, no, I mean, so let's take it. We talked about just a minute ago, showing voter or ID at the voting booth. I mean, that's racist.
Yeah.
Not for me. There is no such thing as racist for me.
Just
Absolutely not.
identify as
So,
black.
Scott, I'm the lost Hodge twin. I know Starbucks said that they were they're opening up all of their bistros, and everybody can come in, and they're doing away with the mask, and you don't have to do that as long as you're vaccinated. I was like, well, how are they going to know?
How are you gonna know?
Just like what they asked Dr. Fauci, apparently, the king of all things COVID. Well, you just got to trust him. So if I show up and I say, yeah, I'm vaccinated, and they say, show me your card, I guarantee you, if I cannot produce that, they will ask me to leave.
Mhm.
Now, if you were to go do that and you said, yeah, I'm vaccinated, and they say, show me your card. You know what? I left it at home. I don't think they'd stop you.
I think you're wrong.
You think I'm wrong?
I think they would kick me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you're confrontational enough to challenge me on that.
Well,
What
I
I mean
don't
by
have
that is
any.
I don't think you have it in you to argue with the bistro or the barista or whatever. See, me, I'd create a scene. That's just because that's the way I am. I'm like, what the
Well,
hell?
no,
Are
I
you
wouldn't create a
segregating me?
scene. I wouldn't
I
create
know
a scene
that.
because anybody who doesn't want to serve me, well, then I'm just going to go someplace else.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm not the guy who turns around and says, "Bake my cake, bigot." Right? I'm just going to go find another baker.
Right.
I'm gonna be like, "Fine, f you. I'm going to take my money elsewhere."
Yeah. You don't want my money? That's cool.
So I vote with my dollars.
Right. I know
You
that.
know. So yeah. So I wouldn't fight. I think they would kick me out, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
We'll
Hit a
see what happens.
Starbucks tomorrow. Let me know.
Well, the thing is I think Ducey made it so that it's you can't ask. You can the company businesses can still request that you wear masks,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't request for you to show them that you've been vaccinated.
Can they still require you to wear a mask?
Someplace, yeah, you can still, if the business wants to wear a mask, they can still say you can wear a mask. They can still say don't come in unless you're wearing a mask, and I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't have a problem with that. I'm totally okay with that. Most places here in the valley, the wearing of the mask is requested. But no, I can't say it's requested.
I've
can't
seen a
remember the
lot of
use-
signs that say mask requested for all customers.
It's in essence, it's it's like a suggested. It's like we would encourage, or I think it's encouraged. I think is what they're using. Is wearing a mask is encouraged but not required.
Okay.
And so I go into the grocery stores, and I'm no longer wearing my mask in grocery stores, and there are people in there
Oh, sure. I've seen that.
wearing their masks, and they're still in panic mode. At
I
some
haven't
point,
seen any of the hazmat suits here recently, so I think the hysteria is coming down slightly.
but at some point you just have to live your life. At some
Yep.
point you just have to take responsibility for yourself and say, well, if I get sick, I'm gonna get sick. But what I never understood, and I don't understand this about people that are so adamant about vaccinations, whether it's COVID or otherwise. But there are some people that are so fascist about getting vaccines that they don't even trust their own vaccine. So, and we're at that. I mean, it's hyperventilated now with COVID, but you've got people that are so in favor of any kind of vaccine, but they don't trust them
No.
because they make these arguments of don't come around me unless you're vaccinated. Well, are you vaccinated? Well, yeah, I'm vaccinated, but don't come around me if you're not. Well, how do you think vaccines work?
If I'm vaccinated doesn't mean it keeps me from spreading. It means keeps me from getting it.
Right.
It's the exact opposite of the mask. The
Right.
mask doesn't protect the wearer, it protects
Right.
the
You're
other
protected.
people.
Do you believe in the vaccine? Do you believe that the vaccine works? Okay, well then if it does, and if it does work, and I'm not denying that it works or doesn't work. I'm not saying that.
I think the vaccine actually is working pretty damn good so far.
I think it is too. I think it's absolutely working very well. But if you get vaccinated, why are you freaked out? I mean, you have got people that are literally losing their minds and they're like, I can't be around anybody if they got it. Well, do you not understand how vaccines work? You have a much better, you're better protected overall.
Yep.
That's why you got it.
Right. Yeah. It's like, are you vaccinated? Yes. Then what the hell are you doing with a mask on?
Right.
Take it off. What are you doing?
I don't understand.
Are you vaccinated and sick at the same time? Because I mean, that would be the only I mean, again, follow the science. That would be the only logical reason for you to be doing that.
Yeah.
Because the mask doesn't protect you. And if you're vaccinated,
Correct.
vaccination protects you. Mask protects me. So unless you are vaccinated and sick, I mean, literally with COVID right now, in the height of its contagion period, there's no reason to be wearing a mask if you're vaccinated, you dum-dums.
I like going to AJ's. There's an AJ's not too far from me, AJ Grocers. And because, all liberals go to AJ's. And when I go into AJ's, everybody's wearing a mask and they're, standing 18 feet apart from one another. And I just go on in, smile. Hey.
What's up?
Yeah.
How you doing? I actually had the family out, I think it was a couple weeks ago, at a local store. And I had a lady, two old ladies actually came up. They were shopping together and they said, thank you for coming out and showing us all of your kids' wonderful smiles. And I didn't know what the hell I was talking about at first. And I realized I'm not wearing my mask because I don't. My kids aren't. Neither of them were either. And they were actually saying, thank you for getting rid of the crap around your face and letting us see. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. You too. I think those are real teeth even. So that's cool. But I mean, if you think about it, when's the last time you saw somebody smile?
I know. Out in public, it's
besides
been a very long
you
time.
and me, I mean, here, you don't see anybody smile anymore. It's sad.
Well, and I mentioned this to you before, but I don't remember if I mentioned it on the show. Last year, I didn't realize it was so prevalent to me. That's why it was such a shock when it happened. But I went all of 2020, and it wasn't until December of 2020 that I shook another man's hand. And it was astounding to me because at that moment I realized, holy hell, I haven't shaken another man's hand in greeting, and just in greeting, like, hey, how are you doing? Shake his hand.
Right.
I didn't do that all year. And then it dawned on me in 2020, and I thought, this is a terrible, terrible thing. And then, of course, there are leftists online that are talking about, we need to come up with different ways of saluting each other when we meet rather than shaking hands. And people were saying, yeah, we should do the Vulcan, live long and prosper. Or, there were people talking about bump elbows. And
I never stopped offering my hand.
Well, I just wasn't around anybody.
No, I know that. I
mean, I don't go shake people's hands just at a charity at Fry's when I go to the grocery store. I don't talk to anybody. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you.
I met 5 people out on the lake in one weekend, just this weekend. I just, that's just the way I am. I went up, I shook hands, met people. Yep. I met a guy who lives down in Cornville and he's up and around this lake. And we started talking about, growing up here, there, doing all this stuff. I met a 50-year-old man and his 82-year-old father.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool people. I shook all of their hands.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that the whole time. And I've had people look at me like, what are you, nuts? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And kept my hand out there the whole time. And well, we're not supposed to do that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can say that, but it doesn't bother me. at least half the time, I'd say it's more than half by quite a bit, people shook my hand regardless.
Yeah.
Now, if they
Well,
ran to the bathroom and washed and hand sanitized and
hey,
did
more
whatever,
power to 'em.
that's on them. You know what? I treat it like everything else. I wash my hands regularly, and that's it. But I will always, always offer my hand in greeting, especially another man.
But you know, if I'm feeling under the weather in those, you know, in years past when I've had a cold or I've had a flu and I've known it, and I've taken Theraflu and gone to work, you know, Dayquil or whatever, and gone to the office, I avoid people. I will no,
Mhm.
you know, you don't come close. I'm sick.
Yeah,
I don't feel good. You know,
absolutely.
don't come close. I would never, you know, be blowing my nose one minute and then reaching out to shake anybody's hand, especially if I were sick. I'm not going to do that. That's
Sure.
gross.
No,
Right.
sure.
And I have
Absolutely.
respect for them as an individual. I'm not going to put that on them. I'm not going to put them in an awkward position. I have to tell me no. Or worse yet, for them to actually shake my hand and then be panicking the whole time. So I
Absolutely.
will give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'll just say, I'm not feeling very good. You don't want to come near me. And they'll be like,
Everybody does that. I
right,
mean,
right,
everybody
right,
does
right.
that. And that's just it. You know, we've it's interesting to hear them say you have to trust people, but we can't be trusted to not shake hands, to not splatter on everybody, to not sneeze on people when we're not feeling well. Since when?
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Last thing that I just wanted to share with you, you know, there's the um and it's a terrible, terrible thing, but we've got, you know, the what's happening over in the Middle East right now with Israel and Palestine.
Mhm.
Palestine got crazy, and Israel is laying the smackdown on them, um, as they should, as they should. Fuck around
Sure.
and find out. Well, Palestine, the Palestinians, they fucked around, and now they're finding out.
Hmm.
So don't do that.
Right.
If you don't want to be in a fight, don't pick a fight.
Right. Especially with the big kids.
Right, because the big kids will finish it.
Hmm.
Or if you're at least going to pick a fight, my uncle and my father used to tell me all the time, if you're going to pick a fight, then you better be sure you can finish it,
Hmm.
because otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. Anyway, my whole point in getting onto that was not to get into a debate about Palestine and Israel, but look at the atrociousness that happens um, on social media.
Oh man.
You have a guy who tweeted out, "The world today needs a Hitler," and this lady responded, "And chambers to burn Jews to ashes." There
No.
now, if somebody were to tell me, well, you know, Manuel, they're just being sarcastic, they're being funny. Where's the joke here?
Um. Now, okay. I'm trying. I'll try my best to be. I don't know. I'll play devil's advocate here for a minute. Let's just try this. So the world today needs a Hitler. Now, I've heard the argument recently that what we need as a world right now is a war, a conflict. We need an evil to attack, one evil to go after. It's possible that Adil Raja here was saying that what we need is one evil to go after. And it is possible that this gal who was responding was, I guess, poking at that stupidity of that comment. Oh, yeah, yeah, we need that. And chambers to burn Jews too, you blah, 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 you dummy. Uh, as highbrow as I can possibly take it, that's perhaps the intent. But this is the problem, and you and I
No,
discussed
I don't
this
believe
too.
that.
With I'm not saying I believe it either. I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying
No,
that that is
there's no
possible.
way that's possible.
Well, no, you don't believe that. That's different.
Well, yeah, you're right. There's no way that I believe that that's possible.
Right. Um what I was getting at was that, you know, when when we have the ability to say something, especially in type, we lose any kind of personal connection or inflection in language. And this is what I was talking about. There's no we don't have conversations ever anymore. You say something like this, it goes out immediately out. You have no personal responsibility for this kind of shit. If you were to say that in public in a crowded room, you'd get your ass kicked if that's exactly what you meant. And perhaps that is exactly what he meant, but there's no repercussions for it. And same with this other girl. Now, either in a conversation, in a banter, if you will, it is possible that he was being facetious, he was being sarcastic, and she might have responded in tort poking at him. But in written type, that does not come that way at all.
And I can't believe that. I can't believe that there's any kind of sarcasm here, particularly on her. Maybe on him. I think maybe you might have an argument there, although I don't think you have any proof of that other than your assumption.
I don't.
There's nothing in his original tweet that even remarkably hints at sarcasm. If there had been a winky face or something, then I might say, okay, then maybe he is being sarcastic because of the winky face, but there's nothing. It's just the world today needs a Hitler. I don't believe she's coming back to poke the bear because this is a Jordanian flag. And Jordan hates Israel. Hate Israel.
Yeah.
They're like the Palestinians. So I don't believe she's being sarcastic back for an instant. I don't believe it for an instant. And for her to come out and just say, "And Chambers to burn Jews to ashes," this is atrocious. I was suspended from Twitter for being harsh on a journalist. I basically said something like journalists are pond scum or something like that, right? I mean, it was or something to the effect of, and journalists continue to wonder why the American people hate their profession. I mean, it was something like that. And I was suspended. This guy called for a new Hitler, and she's calling for Chambers to burn Jews to ashes in. And I checked, neither of these individuals were suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least they haven't been yet. Maybe they will now because, this did happen earlier today. But so far, they haven't been suspended. So, but this is the kind of crap that is just despicable to me.
Right. But we need to be understanding of all people's perspectives and views. Remember that. Unless you supported Trump, then you need to be re-educated.
In the gulag, correct.
Right.
Correct. If you voted for Trump, then you're a misogynist, hate-filled person who needs to be re-educated in a gulag. Of course. Right. Hopefully we'll have adjoining chambers within, adjoining rooms in the gulag, so we can at least, participate in the awesomeness that is the gulag together.
We'll be recording the Fusion Underground with slight echo because it's all concrete walls in there.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for us today. So yeah, anyway, I don't even know, just looking at this picture, I don't know. But anyway, as always, you can find all of our stuff we're on YouTube. You can find all of our crap out on our website, fusionunderground.net. It's got links to our YouTube channel. It's got links to all of our audio versions of the podcast. You can download everything directly from there. Just go to fusionunderground.net. You'll find it. You'll find us there. We're available wherever you can get podcasts. So Apple, the Apple Store, the iTunes Store, Anchor, Breaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on all of them. So check us out. And send us an email, contact@fusionunderground.net. Do you have any parting words before we kick this sucker into the history books?
Well, I know you started this whole argument or discussion, excuse me, out with having principles and values.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that. And it does create a shield, if you will, or a guard against hypocrisy. So I guess my parting thought, or at least contemplation for everyone out there, is if before you're quick to respond in an argument, make sure that that aligns with your values and principles. And if you're not sure, flip that argument to a different topic. Do your values and principles still hold? And if they do, then your argument may most likely will be sound. And it's harder to do than it sounds. It really is, because you may be really challenged in what you believe those values and principles to be. But if you can identify those and maintain them, you'll be in much firmer ground, and you stand less of a chance to fall pitfalls to the hypocrisy that we've seen so much of here lately.
And I don't disagree with that. And I think first of all, people need to they need to want to challenge their thinking. And I think people need to decouple their thinking from the American pastime that is now politics. And you need to stop thinking in terms of your team versus the other team. And you have to start thinking in terms of virtue and what is right and what is wrong, and
Mm,
then assessing your beliefs or your viewpoints on certain topics to see, do they align with your principles. And don't be afraid to, strip out the whole party, the left versus right, Republican, Democrat. Strip that out. Don't look at it in terms of party affiliation. Just look at it in terms of your principles against whatever the concept is, and see how it washes out, because you might be surprised. You
agreed.
might be surprised. All right. Well, we're Jason Moret. I'm Manuel Ramirez. And remember, you've been listening to the Fusion Underground. Peace
Have
be
a good
late.
night.